Hey, welcome to the DeviantArt Podcast. My name is Matt Buholtz, and today we've got Justin Maller back.
I'm back.
Yeah!
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
You've been busy.
I've been super busy. Lots of interviews.
Podcast life.
I didn't choose the podcast life. The podcast life was just there.
Who have you been talking to?
Oh, man. So we've had in a ton of artists, which has been great. I'm sure that you guys listening or watching have seen some of those already, but ones that you haven't seen yet, we've got Ross Draws,
Ooh.
Tamborella,
Nice.
Rake. We've got Bobby Chu.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love Bobby.
That was exciting. And then we've got other people in the creative field as well. We got Lillian Garcia in, who was a host for WWE, also has an amazing podcast, singer-songwriter. But it's been really great getting to talk with all these people about pursuing a creative field.
Have you noticed any overarching themes between this group of people?
It's interesting because all of them have such different backgrounds, right? They all come from different places, different countries, different times even. Some people...
There's time travelers?
There's pre-internet and post-internet as a youth. And, it's been really interesting. But they all kind of have one thing that they've touched on, and that's the fact that pursuing...
Time travel.
They've all touched on time travel. Back in the 1840s.
Sorry, they've all touched on.
They've all been very much like when you try and pursue a creative field, it can be a challenge, as you know, as I know.
Sure.
And they've all had really amazing stories about how they've overcome those challenges or the roadblocks put in their way to continue doing what they're so driven to do. Like there's that part of them that just says, no, I have to be creative. And it's been really interesting and hopefully beneficial to people listening about the ways that they tackled that, because there's no one right answer and no perfect fit for everyone. So getting such a unique group has been really kind of special.
Yeah, and dealing with the way, the things that you encounter, those roadblocks and those times you hear no is what is going to, I think, define you as a person and probably define aspects of your career as well.
Yeah.
These all seem like pretty resilient people from the ones I've heard.
Incredibly resilient. Much more than I would have been. I would have been curled up in a ball doing, paperwork.
No is tough to hear.
No is incredibly tough to hear, and it's incredible hearing all the people that have found ways to find yeses through those no's.
Do you know what else a few of those people have in common?
What?
Ross Draws and Tamborella both have Shiba Inus.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know another person that has a Shiba Inu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who?
My cousin.
Bastard.
No, you've got your Shiba.
Frank!
Frank's been visiting the office.
We have so many dogs in the office now. It's crazy. I think we maxed out at 6, right?
Yeah. We've got, Frank, Fred, Scudder, Ollie, Mooks, Benji.
And Zoe.
Zoe.
Yeah. 7.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whew.
I remember at CTN panel the other day, we did a panel about artist empowerment, mental health, and busting up some stigmas like the imposter syndrome and the starving artist and that sort of stuff. But whilst we were waiting for a couple of artists to show, we had an impromptu panel about dogs.
And it went well.
I think people were more into that than they were about hearing us talk about not being sad anymore.
I'm no longer afraid about automation. I'm afraid of dogimation, where we're just going to be replaced by dogs everywhere.
I'm all for that. The world would be such a better place.
Just filled with treats and walks and joy. What? You got a concerned look on your face.
Well, I'm imagining us being replaced by dogs right now.
Oh, man.
The dog cast.
The dog cast. Oh, no. No.
Legitimately, I think more people would watch our dogs sitting here eating treats with little headphones on than are interested in...
It's not even a question.
I don't think it's much of a question.
And if our two dogs would just sit and stare at each other for 30 minutes, you would be able to hear it. It'd be a great audio podcast. Just... That's dead air.
It's kind of soothing, though. I like that.
Thanks.
We could bring Mooks on. He'd make some noise for us.
Top search term on DeviantArt Podcast, ASMR.
The Dogcast. I like it.
The Dogcast could happen. Get ready, April Fools 2020. Spoilers.
We have to cut. We can't let this idea go public.
I want to hit you with some rapid fire questions before we get into stuff that you've been doing.
Oh, all right.
Get ready.
Because this is a way that people talk to each other.
It is. Well, as CCO of DeviantArt, you have to be ready for the hard questions. And that's why we're here. We got prepping for it.
That's how I start most of my replies to questions as well. Someone can say, how are you doing? I say, well, as CCO of DeviantArt, I'm quite well, thank you.
And just a quick reminder for anyone listening or watching, you can leave comments or questions for us to answer in future podcasts in the comments below, on the journal, on the YouTube, on iTunes, wherever. Also, like and subscribe everywhere that you listen to.
Also, leave comments on DeviantArt. We'll answer them there.
Yeah, I'd love for you to leave comments on the journal on DeviantArt.
All right, come on, questions. Let's do this.
Questions. Okay, preferred color palette, turquoise and orange, or cyan and magenta?
I'm leaning more turquoise and orange these days.
Okay.
I think I've done cyan and magenta to death.
A lot of people have.
Yeah.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
Rustic or modern?
Modern.
3 bands to listen to on a desert island.
Oh, come on, man. This is meant to be quick questions. All right, Metallica, Rolling Stones, and Nas.
Nice. Soda or pop?
Soda.
Winter or Summer Olympics? You can only watch one, but you have to watch it.
Oh, I don't actually want to watch it. Summer Olympics.
If you could go to Mars, but you could never come back, would you?
Can Frank come?
Yeah.
Can I bring like a couple people?
Sure.
Then yeah, let's go to Mars.
Do you believe in eating breakfast?
Yeah.
And your favorite 5-letter word?
Oh.
I put 5 to stop him from some other words.
Prick.
All right. Now that we've got you there, what have you been up to, Justin?
Ruining podcasts, mainly. We've been busy around the site.
Yeah.
Doing a bunch of stuff. I myself have been doing a bit of travel here and there. I got to attend Adobe Max.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really great to make some connections with some artists I've known a really long time on and off DA, which has been amazing. I saw an old friend of mine who I met for the first time, known for decades, just met, Bradley G. Monkowitz. G. Monk gave a great talk about creativity as seasons, which I really enjoyed. The idea of things running their course, having a natural decay, and then there being a period of reinvention, and that being...
That's a cool idea.
It's a very cool idea, and he explains it very eloquent. I'm not even going to go down that route. Go see Bradley if you can, gmonk.com. If he's talking somewhere near you, which he often is. That was really cool. And just sort of working on what's next for DeviantArt, mainly. The panel at CTN was great fun. It was
amazing. We had some really great people on that.
We did, yeah. We had Pascal Campion, Tamborella, and Nicola Huang. And they were such great panelists. We were talking about really heavy subject material. We were talking about mental health, talking about some of the quite negative stereotypes that sort of pervade creative life, like that there's a purity in poverty, that misery is the best place for profound artwork to come from. And, to tackle these subjects, my panelists had to really dig deep and come up with some very honest and stories that were putting them in a pretty vulnerable place. And they did a great job. And it was a really good panel that I'd like to think there was a couple people in the room maybe needed to hear. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was necessarily a mainstream kind of a thing, but I like to think that it gave a couple people hope and some perspective on a difficult, set of topics.
Yeah. I've definitely saw people coming out of that. I was handing out stickers. Saw people coming out talking about the different responses they had heard. Pascal had such a great thing where he said, some of my saddest pieces that I've made were from the happiest times of my life. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really cool.
He had some beautiful turns of phrase during the panel that I'm not going to butcher now, but maybe we can resurrect some other time. That was really cool. So this is a non sequitur, but
okay.
What's your relationship with stats like?
Oh, stats. Well, working in social media, I see a lot of stats.
Right.
I mean, you're always looking for engagement rate. You're looking at where people are communicating from. So I spend a lot of time with stats.
I guess what you're really looking for there is just to see what's resonating.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I definitely look for. I mean, I want to make sure that the content that we're delivering as DeviantArt not only is great and fun and interesting to see, but that it's creating conversations or helping to give artwork that people maybe haven't seen. to people who need to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that stats does that's really, really worthwhile.
Yeah. How about you? How do you feel about stats?
I love stats.
You love stats.
I've always loved stats. I actually think stats might have been the reason I was first drawn to DeviantArt. Was that it was like before there were even thumbnails on DA back in 2001. It had how many comments and just views a piece of artwork it had, and just data can be so beautiful like that. It's just such an interesting thing because it grows and changes and fluctuates over a long enough period of time. And just looking at it is really interesting. I think it's one of the things that hooked me on DA early on. I actually spent a lot of my time looking at stats, and not even like just professionally. One of my big things. I love the NBA. I don't know if you know that.
I've heard rumors that.
Well, I play fantasy basketball. I play season long. None of this head to head, week to week sort of stuff. I play 820 game season long roto fantasy basketball, and it's all stats and analysis and predictions and what have you. And I really enjoy it.
Do you yam on people?
Well, no. I mean, it's difficult to stat yam on someone. Honestly,
maybe just stat sweet potato them.
I taught you what yam meant, didn't I?
Yeah.
For those at home, it's an expression for dunking on someone is yamming.
I learned that at BlizzCon. I learned a
did.
sports term at BlizzCon.
You're welcome. I learned many other things at BlizzCon. Matt learned what yamming it is. Anyway.
One of my favorite types of art is stats-based. I love infographics.
A beautiful infograph is really something.
Yeah, there's some people who do year-long things where they just track everything about themselves and then beautifully display it, like how many times they went out for dinner, what all those different places were. It's crazy.
How many favorites they got on a deviation.
Yep.
No, that's what we did.
Oh, what a segue.
It was a good one, right?
I like it.
It wasn't at all forced.
So, surprise, we're going to talk about stats and insights.
Stats and insights. So our team just launched this product for core members. It's beautiful.
It actually is really pretty to see.
Yeah.
Out of social media sites, it's the best looking.
It's making me want to comment and favorite and do more stuff so I can watch my little graph wiggle pleasantly. Do you like a pleasant wiggle, Matt?
Baby got stat. So our stats, though.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about them. What makes them different than just your typical profile stats?
Well, it's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
So your profile stats still exist and offer a bunch of things like how many deviations you have, watches, page views, all of that sort of stuff. And that's all public information. Right. So stats and insights looks more at sort of your deviations and how they're performing. Gives you information about your visitors, like where they're coming from, what they're doing. And you're tracking your watches and how many comments you've made during the week, your own engagement, going out and coming back in.
One of my favorite things for the podcast is you can actually go and track on the podcast service we use, where people are listening from. And that's always it's always a highlight for me of being oh man, we got one in Argentina.
Is Argentina a tough one to get?
No, I mean, it's just exciting.
I was wondering if that was just
I don't know where a tough place to get listeners is, but it's probably wherever you guys aren't.
Yeah. So anyway, another way that stats and insights is different, and I think that it's one of the really key things, is that whilst there's public stats that are available, these are just for you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole bunch of new information that's available to Deviants, to core members, but it's not a race to get caught up in. This is just some information that is there for you to do your own analysis, to digest at your own pace, and put your own level of importance on.
Yeah, and having it privately, like you said, it lets that be about you yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're not publicly presenting here's all my stuff and here's all the nitty gritty of the almost more business side of your pieces. You can have that for you, for if you want to analyze trends or if you are just curious.
Yeah, the trends over time, I think, is the important thing.
Yeah.
Where you can sort of see where different explorations you had. Say you had a period where you were really interested in refining your inking, and there was one where you went to some experimental, abstract expressionism.
Yeah.
And see which of that was landing for whatever you can derive from that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's a great way to get critique.
Yeah, definitely.
Like if you're not getting a critique in comment form, you can definitely kind of almost A/B test with stats too.
It's got kind of a nice retro aspect, this stats feature, just insofar as that you can view your top 10 deviations, sort them by date, views, favorites, comments, etc., and sort of be able to like get a little retrospective on what's been going on.
Yeah, I think a real important thing too to mention is this is like we just rolled out stats and insights for people to start playing with, and this is really just the first iteration.
Right.
Like things are still building on it. We're still asking you, the audience, or the deviants, to
The DeviantArt community.
the DeviantArt community. We're asking you guys what you want to see and what's important to you for stats, because for everyone it's different, and for different levels of artists, different things are important. I mean, for me, as a more casual artist now, I just like knowing, again, where people are coming from. I think that that's cool.
I think that's something that we're going to be expanding in the near future for Stats and Insights, is the demographics of deviants and how they reached your profiles and deviations, because that sort of info is super fun.
It would be cool, too, to be like, oh, they were on, like, Justin's page and then they came to mine, or anything like that, of just knowing how people find you. That's beneficial. And people are already talking about the stats, too, which is kind of crazy.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we announced it the other day, like prior to this podcast.
Yeah, so Delina, who you guys know from previous episodes, pulled some quotes for us from that, which let's take turns reading these.
Okay.
Let's read a couple.
All right.
Okay.
I go first, you go first.
You can go first.
Okay.
Take your pick.
All right. I'm going to go from the top.
Okay.
I think that it's actually pretty thoughtful for DeviantArt to do this for those of us who want to know such things. I support this and would like to see what more is to come. From Vector 230.
Vector 230, thank you. I've got one. This came off far better than what I expected. Thank you. I'm eager to see how it will evolve in the future. In my opinion, this is clearer than what Classic had. From Lil Silly Lily.
A little bit of shade at the start there. Overall, very optimistic and positive. I like it. Thank you, Little Silly Lily. But this came off far better than what I expected. She's been tuning into our podcasts. Finally, that was an unexpected update, but I love it. I love digging up myself in data, and you've just gave me another source to do so. I'm curious how useful it will turn out to be in the long run, and can't wait to see the future stats you want to implement. From Kanahani Art.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like people are pretty positive so far, and I think what's neat too is everyone's kind of looking at it in their own way.
Right.
Of like, here's some curiosity, but also I'm probably going to dig into some stuff.
I think that's what's important when it comes to stats, is approach them from a healthy way. You know, you want to be able to go in here and get some analysis and have some fun with it and use it to help yourself create more. Never get too bound up in what it means or let it hold you back from making stuff you love to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stats can be very positive and very enabling if you stay healthy in your relationship with them.
Exactly. I think it's important to have that, like especially just any social media.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think so long as everyone does that, we're going to have a really fun little product on our hand here. So kudos to the DeviantArt team who worked on this. It was a hell of a project.
Yeah, and again, it looks great.
Yeah, it really does.
Like,
but driven by some very powerful, stats behind under the hood. What's going on there is crazy to deliver to a whole network.
It looks so good that we could probably run one of those like Spotify Wrapped for people at the end of a year of here's your stats.
Oh, I like
that. Like, it's gorgeous.
I would love that.
Right?
Yeah.
Just see kind of like some stuff that you've done over the past
Especially
year.
with what I'm interacting with as well. I'd love to see a playlist of like the kind of art I like the most, or what I spent the longest looking at.
Ooh.
Something like that?
Yeah,
that'd be
something
cool.
just like that.
Cool.
Nice. Well, again, guys, if you have any notes on what you think you would like to see in stats, if you have any notes about things you'd like to ask us on a podcast, put it in the comments below on wherever you're watching, but especially the DeviantArt Journal, because that's the easiest place for us to see. And we can tag you, you can tag us. It'll be fun.
Very fun.
Yeah.
We promise.
We'll put up pictures of our dogs.
We should do that.
We should.
We should do the dogcast, I think.
The dogcast it'll probably happen in April. We're getting a thumbs up from our producer. It's happening. Goodbye, life on the podcast. It's just dog now.
Welcome, Sheba overlords. Well, thanks for having me back. It was good to be back at the table.
Yeah. It's always a blast having you at the table.
Yes. Well, never again because dogs.
Never again because dogs. On that note, thank you for joining us. Have a good one. Bye.